The Tesla solar roof. It's probably the most expensive solar power system available. Is it worth it? One prominent YouTuber thinks so. Did he make the right choice? We're gonna dig into the video and find out. The smarter way to go solar.
Hi, my name is Marquez Brownlee, and I have not paid for electricity in a year. I have a bunch of electrical appliances, computers, game console, TVs, air conditioning, and I drive an electric car to and from work every single day and charge at home. $0 bill. So I know I had a lot of questions about how this stuff worked.
Okay, first thing I gotta say here is, I think what he means is he has a net zero consumption, meaning that his solar power system is generating as much kilowatt hours or more than what he's consuming. But I've gotta say, in all my years in solar, I've never seen a true zero bill. Typically, there's gonna be some sort of a fixed charge or a connection charge. In other words, even if you have enough solar power to completely wipe out your usage, the power company typically charges you some fixed fee that you can't get rid of just to have the meter turned on. The lowest I've seen is about $8 a month. For me personally, the lowest I ever got my bill was about $29 per month with the fixed fees and the taxes. But let's continue.
So I have had solar panels on my roof at home for the past 12 months now, and I waited this long specifically because now I've seen all 4 seasons and I've observed a wide variety of performance. And I've run all the numbers and I have a lot of thoughts about them. So I want to share them. So first of all, for those familiar, there are a lot of options for solar systems at home. I like that they're called solar systems too. But there are a lot of different companies who make solar systems to power all the electrical needs of a home, including an electric car. So I know I wanted to do this for a while, since the whole point for me was to be able to drive electric for the foreseeable future and actually be able to know that the energy is coming from a sustainable source, the sun. But first, it's actually important to understand that a big part of this solar system is batteries as well. So a normal house is connected to the electrical grid, and whenever something in the house, whether it's a light bulb or a computer or an appliance, calls for electricity, it pulls from the grid and spins up a meter on the side of the house that tallies how much you've pulled. Then at the end of the month, you get billed for how much electricity you've used. Great. Now, if you just add solar panels to this house, when the sun shines during the day on those tiles, it can use that electricity to directly power things in the house. Now, of course, if it's cloudy or if you have a bunch of stuff on all at once and the demand is more than the power from the sun is providing, then it'll pull the rest of what it needs from the grid and spin the meter as well. But most importantly, as soon as the sun goes down, the electricity generated goes to zero. And it just so happens that most people come home from work as the sun is going down, and that's when they turn on all the lights and do the laundry and charge the car, etc. So you're still going to be pulling from the grid for most stuff. Now, that's actually fine for most people, because if the goal, which a lot of people's goal is to have a $0 electricity bill, then this can actually be accomplished, because the power company will hopefully, depending on where you live, but ideally be running something called net metering. So what this means is when the sun shines on the roof and excess electricity is being generated because nobody's home, the house actually spins the electrical meter backwards as it sends extra electricity back to the grid. Then when the sun goes down and you get home and use a bunch of electricity from the grid, the meter spins back forwards. And so ideally the total usage is zero.
That was a really good explanation for net metering, especially for an audience that may not be as familiar with solar as the Solar Surge audience is here. But what this assumes is that your utility is giving you a true net metering, a true one-for-one credit. But as many of you know that have been following the Solar Surge channel for a while, one of the things we've seen happen in the last 12 to 18 months is that utilities are no longer offering a true one-for-one net metering. In fact, in many cases, you now have to send the utility company 4, 5, or 6 kilowatt hours of electricity for every one that you get to pull back. And therefore, having your own battery storage makes a lot more sense, because instead of having to sell it back to the power company at a discounted rate, you can just charge your excess into a battery and then consume off your own battery during evening hours. Let's see how he explains it.
Net zero. That's how you end up with the $0 electricity bill, which is super cool. But what if you want to sort of graduate to the next level of sustainability? What if you want to be completely independent of the grid, totally off the grid? Well, that's when batteries come in. So add battery storage to this system, and now the loop is complete. So when the sun shines during the day and you're not home, it fills up the batteries, effectively storing sunshine energy. And then when you get home and the sun goes down, you can keep using that extra solar energy that you stored with all the electrical needs that you have until the next morning when the sun comes out again and starts filling up those batteries again. So with a system like this, you can theoretically not just have a $0 power bill, but never actually pull from the grid at all. You're completely self-sustainable. You never have to worry about a power outage ever again. You won't even know if a power outage happens. That is the off-the-grid dream, theoretically anyway.
Again, I think he did an excellent job here how he explained that. That is the idea. The idea is to have enough solar harvesting capability so you can collect energy from the sun, have enough battery storage capacity so you can store an adequate reserve of energy, and have battery that have a power output capacity high enough that they can meet the entire energy demand of the home so that the electric company becomes the power provider of last resort. You're essentially self-sufficient with your own solar and battery storage. However, in most cases, the local jurisdiction will not allow you to completely disconnect from the electric grid. But frankly, there's nothing stopping you from going outside and just turning off the main disconnect and forcing your house to run in an off-grid mode if that's what you want to do. Let's continue.
At the beginning of this process, that was my goal. So there's a lot of different options for solar system setups with different solar tile manufacturers and different battery manufacturers and different companies that will install all these things. And there's 1,000 different combos that you could piece together with different companies with different offers in your area to make something that works. I kind of went with kind of a crazy but also a made sense solution, which is just one company for everything, which would be Tesla. So it is a Tesla solar roof, Tesla power walls for batteries, and then the Tesla app to monitor and control everything. And really the main reason I went this route was for simplicity and integration. I paid a price premium for this. This was not the cheapest option. You can spec a much cheaper combo of solar panels and batteries and things like that. But just to have everything on the same page and have everything talking to each other seamlessly, this made the most sense.
Yeah, and of course that is the trend that we're seeing now in the industry is convergence of everything onto one platform, one app, one ecosystem, whether it's the solar panels, the inverter, the battery, the load control system. Now, I will say this, I don't think he paid a price premium because he went with all Tesla. He could have gone all Tesla with traditional roof panels and probably would have been cheaper than most solar quotes that he would have gotten from other contractors using other systems like Solar Edge or Enphase. I think the real price premium he's paying here is for having the roof tiles. Because as far as Tesla goes, Tesla is on the cheap end, oftentimes is the cheapest in terms of pricing, both for solar and for battery storage. Let's continue.
Once I decided to go with Tesla, then the other choice you might have heard about is either solar panels bolted to the roof or these actual solar tiles, which are new roof tiles that are actually hundreds of tiny solar panels themselves all interconnected to make a normal looking roof that's actually a giant solar panel. And that is the one that I went for. And this is why I say this was a crazy option, because I did not actually need a new roof. Most people who go with the solar tiles option would either have an old roof that needs replacing soon, or they're like about to build a new house and this will be the new roof that they put on it. I wasn't in either of those situations, but also this was the way to get by far the largest total array with the most coverage, with as many pitches as my roof has. And also aesthetically, it looks really good too, I gotta say. There's curb appeal. Either way, I make my decision. I'm going with the solar roof. I'm going Tesla's full integrated setup. From there, I'm not gonna lie, it is quite a process. There is a lot of paperwork and hoops to jump through. Also with Teslas, they've been kind of in and out of reliability. Like over the years, they've been on and off with actually making.
Okay, I'll have more to say about that in a moment, but I think he kind of admits that he chose this option not necessarily because he had to, but this is kind of what he wanted. He didn't really need a new roof. He didn't really need to do it in terms of any sort of financial justification. He just kind of wanted it, and it looks the best. And frankly, I think that's most of the people that are investing in, or I shouldn't even say investing in, most of the people that are indulging in a Tesla solar roof, they're doing it because they want it. They want it. It's cool. It's the hottest thing going. It looks cool, but you pay a price premium for it. All right, let's see what he has to say about Tesla's reliability.
This product. They've paused installations for a while. It was briefly canceled and then it came back and there were supply chain issues. I remember reading about all this and I was kind of worried But for whatever reason, when I ordered, which was in 2021, basically everything went perfectly smooth, as well as it could have gone. You get assigned a Tesla advisor just like for your project, for your solar project. They walk you through the whole process from the paperwork with the town from beginning to end. So there was an ordering process, inspection, a measuring process, quotes, filling out paperwork with the town. You actually, when you're first trying to get an estimate, you actually submit your address and they go look on Google Images and look at your roof with satellite imagery and give you an initial quote. Then once you're locked in and you decide you want to go through with it, they'll actually come to your home with professionals and actually measure it and then give you a precise real quote and then start to order all the materials. You eventually get to the point where you get an install date, you start scheduling things out, and then they come through with all the boxes of solar panels, and they took up my whole driveway for a couple days. There are people who have actually walked through this entire process in great detail. I'll try to link a good one below on YouTube. But at the end of the day, for me, the process I started when I signed the purchase agreement, which was in November 2021, and finished with the activation of the system in July 2022. So 8 months.
Okay, now that's on the longer end of the spectrum here as far as what you can expect from a contract to PTO. Generally, we would consider a 90-day contract to PTO to be a good pace for an installer. But of course, he's got all this complexity in the system, right? He's doing a complete roof replacement, roof tile integration, as well as adding battery storage. And as I mentioned before, when you add battery storage in with a solar system, those electrical plans now become more complex. Typically, it takes longer to get the plans approved, and it can take longer to get the final inspections passed on the back end. But let's keep going.
But now that it's done, we get to nerd out about the numbers. Sorry in advance to anyone who doesn't like numbers. I feel like that's really the only way to explain how good it is and what's happening with them. So there's about to be a lot of them. Let's get into it. So first of all, the specs, right? So this is a 29.313 kilowatt solar array size. Your boy's got a big roof. And then there are 3 Powerwall 3s, which totals 40.5 kilowatt hours. And then this is the Tesla app where all of the learnings and all of the numbers happen. When the system first got activated, I just remember seeing it light up in the app for the first time, the numbers jump up, and I could stare at the app for a while. I could really get lost in the numbers. Maybe it's just because I'm a numbers person, but there's a lot going on, and it was exciting to see it all in real time and learn a lot of stuff. So I think the app is really well done, and it lets you visualize how much energy the solar array is currently capturing, how much energy the home is using, and the state of charge and power output or input of the Powerwall batteries. And then, of course, anything happening with the electrical grid. So you can see at this exact moment in time, on a sunny morning in July, the panels are bringing in 7 kilowatts of power, 5 of which are powering the house, the last 2 of which are going into the Powerwalls, which are 38% full, and it's not touching the grid at all.
Now, this is consistent with the feedback that we've been getting as well. Most Tesla owners really love the Tesla app, and Tesla has some really great, in terms of their user interaction, their user interface design, they've got a great reputation there. The thing that bothers me about this is that, if we're talking about truly preparing for an off-the-grid operation or a grid-down operation, I don't like the idea that I have to use a phone app to monitor or to control my system. In other words, if we're in a situation where internet service is knocked out or cell phone service is knocked out, that may be the time when you need to use your off-grid solar power system the most. I don't want to be reliant on an app to do it. I would rather have something where I could physically just go to the unit and operate the unit locally. But that's just me. I think for probably 90% of you guys out there, you're preparing to operate in still somewhat of a modern grid-connected world, the solution may work fine. Let's continue.
So it's time for the big summary. I've had this solar setup for a full year now, all 4 seasons. It's time to run the numbers, see if it was really worth it, and see if it's actually good. So let's start with the money question here. This, like I said, was nowhere near the cheapest possible option. Of course, going with solar panels and batteries, a lot of different possible setups. So my setup with the solar tiles, all of the materials, all of the labor, installation, everything, and the 3 batteries, everything together was $120,948.04. But also, as you can see, there's a federal tax credit down here of nearly $30,000, bringing the total cost to me down to right around $93,000. So the tax credit does fluctuate quite a bit. It's actually gone up like a lot since I ordered like a year and a half ago, whatever it was. It's up to 30% now in New Jersey. So it's called the New Jersey Solar Investment Tax Credit.
Okay, so the Renewable Energy Investment Tax Credit is available across the United States. The only catch is you have to be income tax liable. So if you don't have enough income tax liability to claim this, in his case, about a $30,000 credit, you may not get that entire amount, or you may not get anything if your income is not taxable. So I think that's one detail he forgot to mention here, but that's not just a New Jersey thing. That's available in all 50 states.
If I ordered today, it would have been $8,000 more off, but it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. I'm not mad. It's fine. But the main question you typically see with an investment like this is, what is the payoff period? How long does it take before that investment pays for itself in saved electricity? So that's a good question. And I had to do quite a bit of math here because every bill is different. Every week, every month of electricity costs different amounts. Actually, my provider literally has different electricity rates every single hour, and there are different averages per day, per week, per season. But if I do a sort of a sweeping average for each month and how much electricity I've been using, the 54 megawatt hours of electricity that I've used in the past year would have cost about $9,660. So again, it's a lot, but obviously air conditioning takes up a lot, and a lot of that is driving an electric car every single day. So of course my gas bill has been $0 this whole time, but that's where it comes from. So if you divide that out by the total cost that I paid, it comes out to just under 10 years, 9.6 years. So if you Google like, what's a good payback period for a solar setup? The answer that the AI pops up with is like 6 to 10 years, which, if I think about it, makes sense, obviously. And that's great because if the panels are warranted for 25 years and you pay them off in 10 years, then they're just paying you extra for the next 15 years, however long you're in that house, which is great.
Okay, I got to say something about that because, we're talking about solar warranties. One of the issues, of course, right now is that a number of solar companies have gone bankrupt, have gone out of business. And so these 10-year, 20-year, 25-year warranties, they're great so long as the company is actually still in business and actually healthy and able to perform under the warranty. Now, I do think going with Tesla is probably one of the lowest risk, if not the lowest risk solar contractor to go with. I mean, after all, Tesla's, multi-billion-dollar public company. We don't think that they're going anywhere anytime soon. But that is an issue, especially if you're considering solar. Maybe you're going with a smaller local contractor or a smaller company that doesn't have that kind of strong financial foundation. There is that risk that the company may not be around to service the warranty. However, a sub 10-year payback on solar with whole house battery backup, I think that's a tremendous value. When I got started in solar, it was generally considered about an 8-year payback to do solar only. That was just using net metering and basically being able to bank your excess with the power company and pull it back during evening as you need it. With solar and battery storage, the payback was always like 12 to 15 years plus. So I think the fact that he got a sub 10-year payback with solar and storage overall is a good return. Let's finish out.
So mine being on the longer end of that, am I mad at that? Not really. I think that's fine. I also do know that there are a couple of things that could have been different to make that payback period shorter. Now, actually, the number one suggestion typically would be like, okay, if you want to make the payback period shorter, get a less expensive setup. And that would make sense, but also you have to keep in mind, the coverage really matters here. So I could have gone with a much less expensive, actually a solar panel array from Tesla on this same exact roof. And because of all the pitches on the roof, they estimated they could have put panels down on certain parts and it would have totaled a smaller 19 kilowatt array instead of the 29 kilowatts of the solar tiles. I know that because that's actually what I first signed up for an estimate for as I was like juggling the idea in my head. Would that have had a shorter payback period, or would that have been offset by much less electricity being produced and taking longer to pay for itself? I don't know.
That's a good point that he makes here, and for homes like his, and I should have said earlier, his consumption is about triple of what the average US home is. And so in this case, he actually was able to get more power by utilizing the roof tiles because basically every bit of roof surface area has become functional solar production. Whereas with using the traditional panels, especially following Tesla's guidelines for how they're willing to break up the different arrays, he would not have been able to get as much power. But in general, if let's say we're doing an apples to apples comparison, an equal size roof surface area using solar panels versus the solar tiles, the solar panels are going to be much more cost efficient for you and much more space efficient. Again, assuming we could fill the entire roof area up with traditional solar panels versus the roof tiles. But in his case, doing the roof tiles and using the entire roof surface on every side gets him a higher total energy yield, which in his case makes sense because he has the consumption to justify it.
But the other part of that equation that I'm thinking about now is just like, I should just use more electricity so that it pays for itself faster. I want to get my values worth. I am constantly in net negative, so I can afford to use way more electricity. And so I thought maybe about switching, various appliances that aren't electric yet, maybe even switching heating to electrical. So that may be in my future. But now for all of the miscellaneous weird quirks of having this brand new piece of tech on top of my house, because believe me, there are quite a few. So first of all, on the $0 electricity bill for the whole year, that is real, which is pretty awesome. But it's also interesting that I was able to achieve the $0 bill monthly, but I also used positive net grid energy for those 3 months during the winter. So you might be wondering, wait a second, how does that work? And the answer is net metering credits, it turns out, they roll over month to month, but then they get reset once per year. So meaning when it was first activated and in the first full month of August, I produced more than I used, I ended the month with a credit of the difference, which was negative 255 kilowatt hours. And it says that on the bill. So that means the next month, even if I used 255 kilowatt hours more than I produced with solar, I would still have a $0 bill because I have that credit to play with. But month after month after month during the summer and then the fall, I was building up more and more negative credit so that by the time we got to winter, those 3 months in a row, I was eating into the credit, but I didn't eat all of it. So I didn't get all the way back to zero. So the bill was still $0 every month. So then another fun thing, power outages. I have had a few power outages since getting the solar system installed. Most of them just because of thunderstorms and the grid going down for a bit. I didn't even notice, which was pretty sick. I did not notice. The lights didn't even flicker. I didn't actually know until I got a notification on my phone from the Tesla app saying, hey, just so you know, you're disconnected from the grid right now, but you're running off of solar and or batteries right now. So everything is good and you've got, X amount of hours of backup left and it should get you till the next morning when the sun comes up again. And there's even a storm watch feature that will preemptively make sure the power walls are full if it knows a big storm is coming. And honestly,
that is one of the advantages too of doing solar and battery backup versus a traditional generator is that the switchover time is so fast, you don't even really know that the power went out. You don't have to reset the clock on your microwave or on your coffee maker. The battery, the solar, everything's able to kind of switch immediately to keep power uninterrupted to the house. So that's one thing I really like about it.
Honestly, there is a pretty sweet peace of mind knowing for a fact that if I don't charge the car, the power walls have more than enough to just use the house like normal until the next morning. Air conditioning, appliances, literally whatever, and it'll be fine. And when the sun comes out again, it'll start powering everything. I could be completely off the grid for days or weeks at a time if I find somewhere else to charge the car. Now, another fun fact. In the winter, in the Northeast, you probably already know, we get snow. And apparently, the surface of the solar tiles, the solar roof, stays just above freezing, just a little bit warmer than a roof would, which has some interesting side effects. Most notably, when it snows a little bit, the snow simply hits the roof and melts. So it never actually accumulates on the roof, and then the solar can continue to work. I mean, if it's cloudy, you get a little bit of solar, but it keeps working, and then you're the only house that doesn't have a white roof because there's no snow on it. But when it snows heavy, like a lot, which it does a few times, what happens is it snows a ton and it actually does accumulate, and then when it accumulates, the outside layer kind of insulates the bottom, and so the bottom now has room to get warm again, and so it warms up and creates a thin layer of water, and then the whole thing just slides off of the roof like a sheet of ice. Like the whole accumulated layer slides off on the water. So I didn't actually get videos of this happening with my own roof, but there are some YouTube videos of this happening on YouTube. It's kind of crazy. Literally the whole roof section slides off in sheets, and it actually lands in piles around the house sometimes blocking a door or a driveway. It's not a small deal. It was a little bit frightening the first time it happened because I didn't realize what that loud booming noise was. I was like, is there thunder in a snowstorm? That's kind of weird. But then I like see it in the window, like sliding off of the roof, which is crazy. Then it piles up around the door, and then I gotta shovel it. But then last but not least, the fun fact, I lied to you all. That sounds silly. The $0 power bill is actually kind of a lie because my power company ruined it. Every month for the past 12 months, my electricity bill has been $5.75.
Okay, yeah, I told you guys, it's never really zero, but I gotta say, that's the lowest net zero usage electric bill that I've ever seen. So I'm sure the utilities probably jacked the price up since this video was published, but that's pretty typical. You know, you have some minimal fee just to keep the meter active, just to keep the account active, even if you're not using energy from the electric company on a net basis.
That's just because I have zeroed out all the charges thanks to net metering, but they charge $5.75 every month basically just to have an account. So, thanks guys. So let's just to wrap everything up here, my 1 year conclusion. This is an awesome piece of bleeding edge tech. You can tell it's bleeding edge because it's still rapidly evolving over time and it's still very expensive. So for early adopters like me who are willing to take the plunge, willing to take that risk a little bit, it can be really awesome. It kind of reminds me of electric cars. There are a lot more affordable solar setups out there that are making a meaningful difference for a lot of people in a lot of different situations all over the world. There's also much more massive, huge solar setups as well. But I think we can kind of all get behind a technology making more sustainable energy more useful, more efficient, and more beautiful over time. I definitely learned a lot with this process, mostly in like how much electricity certain things specifically use, but also how much electricity a roof with solar panels on it can collect in different times of year, different seasons, and different situations. But honestly, I don't think I would change a thing. I don't think I would change anything in what I did, other than probably waiting like 6 months to get a little more of a federal tax credit. But I'll hit one last thing. It was briefly mentioned in like a Tesla earnings call, I think it was, that, or maybe Elon just said it randomly, but that Tesla vehicles in a year or two, by 2025, would all support bidirectional charging, which would be amazing. I don't know that that's actually going to happen, but having the cars be able to not just charge other cars, but even potentially serve as your house's backup battery would be pretty incredible. These car batteries, as we're learning, are already way bigger and can support way more power output than any Powerwall, any home battery. One Model S battery is equivalent to like 7 or 8 Powerwalls. So who knows if Tesla actually does it or not, but as of today, with the right box on the wall, with the right inverter, the F-150 Lightning, which has an even bigger battery, can actually be your house's backup battery. So I think the number of EVs that support this feature should only be slowly going up. But I think ideally there's a world in the future where instead of needing like a huge, the current thing needing a big solar setup and all these fancy batteries, all you really need is a small solar array, an inverter, and your car battery, and you have the ability to be completely functional during any extended power outage or any emergency. Because we live in a world where there's another news story every week about the electrical grid being taxed and how these heat waves are running people's grids and air conditioners into the ground, and too much of it is causing blackouts and literally actually deaths. So any strain that we can take off the grid is a win. And anything we can do to operate on clean, sustainable energy is a win for everybody.
All right, guys, overall, I like the presentation here, and I think the conclusion here is it is worth it. If you can afford the initial capital investment here, over time, a system like this does pay for itself. It's also just really neat conceptually to be able to harvest from the sun and store all of the energy you need for your own consumption. And in the very near future, you know, when we're all driving electric vehicles, let's say 10 years from now, being able to plug your electric vehicle into your home's hybrid power system and have that allow you to have a more redundant backup power source, but also just move to a more self-sufficient position where, again, you're not relying on the power company. The power company is kind of just there as the last resort option, but you have the means of generating, storing all the energy that you need. Well, folks, that pretty much does it for today's reaction video. By the way, if you like these new reaction style videos, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, and also go ahead and comment down below if there's another video that you'd like to see me react to. Post a comment with a link down below and we'll check those out and hopefully have those out for you in the near future. But that does it for today's video. We're talking about the Tesla solar roof. Was it worth it? As always, I'm Joe Ordia here, encouraging you to get prepared and be empowered. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. All right, I hope you're getting some great value from today's video content. Now, if you would like to have your business or product or technology featured on the Solar Surge channel, we can help you do that. Feel free to use the link below to set up a call with our media team so that we can discuss your marketing goals and how Solar Surge can help you get there. Solar Surge is the leading online community in the U.S. residential solar and energy storage space. And so if you would like to have your business or product or technology introduced to our audience, we can help you do that. Again, feel free to reach out to us on the link below to set up a call with our media team or email media@solarsurge.net.